Informed me on Thursday afternoon that he was no longer going to be here. You guys are stuck listening to me again. But good news, good news. You're not going to have to listen to me again this semester because the team is going to crush it. Andre's just bitter because I was better at him in basketball.
Oh. Truth hurts.
Okay, so I was so tonight. How did I leave that up there? Not bad. So tonight is about alone. Well, you don't even know what to put up there. I mean, I can send you back there. I need to teach Jolly to work this. Jolly, you're going to learn to work the computer for me, right? I'll train you. You can just come right here. And then I know, that's why I was praying about this while we were singing. I was like, who does this for a living? I was like, Jolly does this for a living. Jolly's going to start running the technology for us. I need to delegate things better. So the series is called No. We started with Abba. We talked about the relentless Father when we kind of recapped everything. Last week for the Super Bowl, there was like 20 of you guys here. It was really great. We talked about belonging and what it means to belong. It was a really awesome night. It's weird. We interceded for the Lord to fall here. It was something we've never done before. It's something that was weird for me. So not just like, oh, Kevin's going to do something that's normal for him, but weird for us. No, it was weird for me, so it was like terrifying for you guys. But you guys did it. And like most of you are back this week. Even Paul. Way to go, Paul. I was like, if Paul comes back, I'm not insane. So thank you, Paul, for affirming my non-insanity. Yeah, no problem. I know. But I feel better. And so we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that like once a month, where we take time at the end of flock to intercede for the Lord to do a work of outpouring here. Because intercessory prayer is powerful, and like I just want to affirm this powerful because we had some of the best conversations in the 8th grade chosen on Tuesday that we've ever had, and we actually prayed for the Lord to speak, and multiple kids talked about how they heard the Lord clearly, that He started to do things in their life. And so like, it already had an effect. So thank you guys for that, and just to affirm that the Lord is doing something in this parish, and He's starting it here. He's starting it with you guys. Because you guys are not the future church, you guys are the church. Right? And so tonight is alone. Right? And so as a series, as we're going into what it means to be known, we have to learn to be alone. And when I was in, right when I graduated from college, I moved down to Texas, to Dallas. I don't recommend Dallas to anyone in the world. I hated it so much. It was terrible. Dallas was awful. The worst. Because I wasn't supposed to be there. That's why it was terrible. And so I was there, and I went to work for this organization because they promised me a platform to speak on. And I wanted to be famous. And so that's why I went down there for selfish reasons. And the Lord did work on my heart. And it was really amazing. And so I got down there and I had no friends, and there was like nobody working for the company. And I lived with like two 30-year-old dudes who were super weird. One of them had a beard to like right here.
That's sweet.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was a nice guy, but like he was a little bit weird.
Mr. Bill.
What?
You say I love you, Andrew?
I did say I love you. His name was Andrew. Yeah. But one of the things that they have in Dallas that's not so terrible, actually in Irving, which is like the Leawood. I'm sorry, it's not the Leawood of Dallas at all. It's like, what's the opposite of Leawood? No. Let's not insult all of Kansas City. It's the armpit of Dallas. That's what Irving is. That's what Irving calls itself. But they had a movie theater that showed 50-cent movies on Tuesdays. And so like there were movies that were like, they'd been out for like 5 or 6 months, and they'd bring them in for like 2 weeks, and they're 50-cent Tuesdays. And so you could go watch movies. And so I would always go to 50-cent Tuesdays by myself. And it really bothered my wife. And like, you guys are like, oh, that's so sad. But like, I didn't think it was sad. Like, because how many of us are talking during a movie anyway? Right? Those are the people that we hate the most. When you go to movies and someone starts talking, you're like, shut up, I'm watching the movie. Right? Don't talk to me. And so it was great. But I was like, honey, that's so sad. She wasn't my wife, and she was my fiance. That's why she wasn't there. And I was like, honey, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to talk to anyone anyway. And like, I get to see all these movies for 50 cents. But she thought it was so sad for me to be alone. But I never felt awkward. I never felt isolated. Like I felt secure in going to what I was doing. It's actually because the Lord has blessed me with the opportunity to be alone for many periods of my life. And what I mean by that is, as I told you some of you guys, I used to drive cars with my dad. So we would transport cars from St. Louis to Columbia, from St. Louis to Kansas City and back, from St. Louis to Nashville, from St. Louis to other parts of Illinois. We just travel cars all over the St. Louis area. And regularly, because I'm a weirdo, I would take off for these places and I would forget to turn on the radio. Or, probably like 50% of the time, because these were bad cars, the radio didn't work. And so I actually had to learn how to be alone with myself. I had to learn how to interact with myself. I had to face myself. And so when I had to go do these things, it wasn't weird. And when I was in Texas, the other thing that I did, I worked, I went to 50 Cent movies, and I went to adoration. And I was praying somewhere between an hour or two a day, because I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't have anyone else to hang out with. We didn't have TV in our house. I didn't have Netflix at the time, because I didn't have any money to pay for Netflix. I was making $550 a month. That's 550. Right? My budget for food was $75. I lived off of other people's donations. They'd be like, hey, we got some extra food, here it is. I'm like, thank you, I'm so sorry. I lost 35 pounds. It wasn't healthy. I was only there for 7 months. It was so bad. And, but I spent a lot of time in adoration, getting to know myself and getting to know God and understanding why He had created me. And when we first talked about this, we talked about the triangle that's in the image, right? Up here is relationship, down here is identity, over here is mission. Right? Another way of looking at it is God's self-purpose. Right? Who am I, who is God, and what is my purpose in life? Because we're all looking for our purpose in life. And, you know, the sin of Adam and Eve, the original sin, right? When they were in the garden, it was a sin of a lack of trust in God. Like the devil sowed doubt that God was good and that He was a good father and that He could be trusted. And so they took of the fruit thinking that they needed to do something for themselves. That they needed to take care of themselves. Right? And when they did that and God came walking back into the valley, they hid from God. And most of us spend most of our lives hiding from God too. Because we're afraid and we're ashamed to come before Him in our nakedness. We're afraid that our brokenness will mean that we don't belong. And what we talked about last week is how important that this place and this room and this group is a place of belonging. Last week I shared that I've had like 3 anxiety attacks in my life, and I had one a couple weeks ago as I thought about the faces, as I was having this freak out, and the devil was just assaulting me. I just had every face of every person that's ever come into this room and then hasn't come back because this wasn't a place of belonging. Because I had failed to love them, because I had failed to minister to them, because I had failed to raise up people who knew what it meant to love and create an atmosphere of belonging. And most of us have encountered that struggle, encountered that fear of being in isolation. Right? What is isolation? Isolation is when we're unknown by God and unknown by others. And we lack the self-awareness of what's going on in our life. We don't know who we are or what our purpose is. Right? And when we go to conferences and we go on trips and we go on retreats, we go with other people and we encounter something other with others. And it's awesome and it's exciting. And we can share that with other people. Oh my gosh, I encountered God. I entered into a relationship with Him and it was so amazing. It was so awesome. But when we come home, we have to go be alone with God. And we're afraid to be alone with God because we're afraid to see ourselves as we are. We're afraid that our brokenness will mean that we no longer belong in relationship with God, that we no longer belong in community with other people. And so we pull away. Right? And I know this because I've been on student bills for 15 years. I've wrestled with my prayer life. I know this because I've had conversations with many of you over and over again about how amazing Superbowl was. And we're at the conference, I'm going to go home, I'm going to do things different. And we get here, I'm like, how's it going? And you're just like, I did good for a week, but then I kind of fell off. Why? Because we start to discover what our identity, who we are, is what our brokenness is, and we get scared, and we're scared of being isolated. Right? But when we take time to be with God, it's not in isolation, it's in solitude. And when we're in solitude, we know who God is and we become self-aware. Right? Solitude is not fleeing from the world, but it's running towards God. Because when we enter into a relationship, our brokenness does not deny us God's mercy, but it makes us more fit for it. And so we come into an understanding of who we are, of what our identity is, right? And then we can go into mission. We have this beautiful encounter with the Lord and His mercy and His goodness. It's like looking at the life of Moses and Judas. Right, or Jesus and Judas. Right, Moses went away to be with God many times. Right, he encountered God in the wilderness, and God spoke to him and invited him into a deeper relationship. And then when he led the Israelites out of Egypt, again, the Lord called him up on the mountains to come commune with him, to come be in relationship with him. And he would come down and his face would shine and people would be afraid of him because his face was glowing. And Jesus, when he did his ministry, it talks about over and over again in the scriptures how he went away to be with the Father. Because it was when he went away that he found the food that he needed, the living waters that he needed to minister. From communing with the Father. Right, before he sets out into the world, before he begins his mission of glorifying his Father and bringing about our salvation, he goes into the desert for 40 days. Right, that's why we have Lent. It's to prepare ourselves to be sent on mission. We go into Lent to go into a deeper relationship with the Father and a deeper understanding of who we are. And it's scary when we encounter ourselves for the first time. Right, St. Faustina, I said this before, St. Faustina the Lord showed her a vision of her soul and all of her faults.